Hey everybody, good morning. Okay. It's good to see all of you here. Last time I was here, it was Labor Day, I think, weekend. And I didn't see many of you. I think a lot of you were traveling, doing good things. And it's good to see all of you safe and well. And here today, what happened to these two rows here? Did any of the kids do something wrong there? I have to study here, yeah. Manny, we do need to run some scientific tests here. Yeah, the angels are here I don't think the angels are here to watch me, for sure. Yeah. If there are angels here, they're just to protect you guys, for sure. Okay, it's good to see you. Are you guys happy to be here today? Good. Do you find a little rest when you're here? Okay. Are people kind to you when you come here? Okay. And that makes me happy as a pastor. That means that we are on the right track. Yeah? What do you think about our band? Wasn't that amazing? You know what I like the most about our new band here? Do you know? It's that it's ours. It's people from here who love Jesus and who love all of you. Singing and playing. Did you guys get it? There's one that doesn't have batteries, by the way, so just got to change it. Thank you, guys. Friends, as you know, we had a few rough days here, right? A couple of years ago, a few years ago, when we still had two communities, two churches. I don't remember if we had already voted to come together and we're still meeting every week. When we first started, we met 1 week at Rabbit Road, 1 week here until we decided to stay here and just meet here and look for new locations and all of that. And back in those days, it was a regular Sabbath morning, right? And I was at the door with Sis. Normally at the door there, she greeted you with Sis. And I remember a young girl, bright-eyed, blonde, walking in the doors with jeans and a shirt and a baseball cap. And now that I look back at it, Mary was an announcement of plot. For those who read, are into literature, let me explain what an announcement of plot is. An announcement of plot is when something happens that sort of announces what will happen several more times afterwards, right? In the Bible, you have a lot of those, right? Story of Abraham, God comes to him and says, go to the land I'm going to show you. Lech lecha in the Hebrew. That's an announcement of plot. Because right before God calls him to sacrifice his son, years later, same words appear. Lech lecha, go, take your son. That's an announcement of plot. It sort of introduces what will keep happening later. And Mary, that lady that came in, that young, beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed girl came into our doors. She was an announcement of plot. Because Mary was the announcement, okay, of what would continually happen. I didn't know. So every single one of you who came through those doors without any announcement since then, you're just doing what Mary did and showed us that God would continue doing. And a couple of days ago, thank you, Deirdre. Another gift from God to our community. A couple of days ago, Jonas wrote me to say that Mary got into a car accident and died. I read the paper every day about horrible people in the world, but Mary died. I don't know why. I don't think God has a purpose because I don't think God controls death like that. We live in a broken world. That's what I believe in. Broken world. And God is trying to put it back together, right? So Mary died. That's what happened this week, and that's why when people ask me today if I was okay, no, I'm not okay, right? How can I be okay? In a little church situation like this, when you lose one, you know what I mean? So I'm very sad. And I'm happy that today we can share that sadness together, right? Because my dream when I was teaching theology back in the day was to have a community, a church where we could share affections, share feelings together. So today I have a sermon in it. I don't know if that's what, I just wanted to share with you where I am, right? The suffering that we all share. I know several of you are suffering too. And Frank, one of our good friends from the shelter who helps me with food every week, when I heard about Mary, I said, who can I go hug? Person that I don't want to lose. So I was close to where Frank lives. He was with me the previous day distributing food. When I get there, he's not there. Why? Because an ambulance took him. He had a stroke that very morning. So that's what my days were like the last few days here. So I was with him in the hospital yesterday, this morning as well. So pray for Frank. Deirdre, thank you for mentioning that. Wendy too. So what does this all say to all of us? It says, friends, that life is short. Life is hard. And life is short. And what I want us to sort of live together in the shortness of these days is just to value what we have here. To value the names and the stories that surround us, to value this, because I don't know how long we're going to have one another. Mary was a curveball. I was not expecting that. Not expecting that. So let's keep praying for the family. Let's keep praying for Frank. And let's cherish what we have. I carry a lot of guilt with me constantly. I share them with you guys once in a while. One of them is not being in Brazil right now. That's one of the guilts I carry with me. It's a weight. Why? Because Brazil is in the middle of a thunderstorm, a mess, and I can't be there to help people. That's one of the guilts I carry. Another guilt I carry was not visiting Mary a few weeks ago when I felt that I needed to. I called, prayed with her. I wish I could have hugged her once more and reminded her what I always did, which she was loved, seen, I carry a lot of guilt. So, one of the guilts I carry as well is not doing more for our young adults. Mary was a young adult here in our community, and our young adults are, you guys know, they're sort of spread out, right? I haven't maybe done enough, right, to have a place for you guys. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say to our young adults, Jonas, Cliff, Deirdre, everybody else, Daniel, Oscar, who's here, don't disappear, I don't want to have to add more weight to that part of my guilt. Let's be together. This is exclusively for the young adults. Let's do things together. Let's just share life together so that I don't have to look back and feel the guilt I'm feeling over Mary again. So help me, right? Help you. Let's bring the others. The ones that were here before and not here. Let's bring them back. Let's share life together. That's what I wish would happen. So yeah, I needed to get that out of the way before we did anything else. Is that okay? Are we okay? Karina, I think of you too, Danielle. Share life together. Life is lonely enough, hard enough without one another. So let's at least be together in all those feelings. Okay? Priscilla, good to see you here too today. All right. I have a list here of the things that was going to be a point in the sermon. And maybe I'll bring it up later. I have a list of the things we do throughout the week. My goal here as a pastor We had a conversation this week. It's to build a playground for moms and kids right there. Why build a playground for moms and kids? So that we can be together. Know what I mean? Another plan I have is to build a sports court right there. So that Chris, we don't have to go to a park next to where I live to play basketball, so that we can play basketball right here together. Why a court? So that we can spend more time together. Are you guys with me? This whole thing here is not about getting to heaven, but living in the atmosphere of heaven right now. Every day, every week. So my goal is to create spaces, and more spaces where we can literally share life together and remind one another that it's okay to be all messed up, because we all are. Okay? We all are messed up. So why not just share it together? Embrace one another and remind what we just talked about a few minutes ago, that divine mercy is there for all of us, and it's more important than everything else that we worry about. All right. Okay. What's up, babe? You doing okay? Okay. Should we do a sermon or should we just go home? I'm good with any. Although I don't preach sermons, I just share some stuff with you. Preach a sermon. Do you want more? Do you want to continue in Matthew? I'll swing any other way. Or we can just pause and share feelings. We can do that too. What do you guys want to do? Sis said Matthew. Is that what you said, sis? I think if we go the feelings route, it's going to get out of control. But eventually we need to do a memorial service for Mary here together, and then maybe we can spend time together sharing our feelings and our memories there. Is that okay? So look out for that. We're going to do a double memorial soon. We're going to do a memorial for Mary, who we love deeply. And we're going to do a memorial for Rocky, who we never did a memorial for, who passed away earlier this year. Is that okay? Would you guys come if we did that? Okay. I'll bring food, and then there's no excuse, right? Okay. Try to think of where we were. Yeah. What? Benjamin, thank you for filling up that role there, man. I was concerned. Thank you. That is the role of the pastor's kids. For those who were you pastor kid, Gene? That was a full-time job too for me. Best naps I've had in life. Front row of churches, man. My dad didn't even get mad. It was part of the deal, you know. Your mom was the organist, so when you were sleeping, she would just hit that G, right? I don't know. Is that the G? I don't know. Yeah. I'll wake you up. Okay. Yes, Dolores.
There were 7 of us kids, and we sat in the second row, and it didn't matter where I sit, Mom could reach me.
That must have brought great memories of, yes, it's time for a church again, right? Yeah, great. You know, in Brazil, and no joke, are you guys ready for this? Dave, cover your ears because I don't want to trigger you. I don't know what was happening with the Southern Baptists back in the day. But behind, there was always a little room, like we have a little thing behind here. And in Brazil, you have like, in the little traditional churches, you'll have like a little hanger with ties, obviously for people who didn't show up wearing a tie, right? So you pick one up in the back. And that kind of stuff. And in some of the churches, you'll find a wooden pole with a little nail to the tip. I've seen this. I've picked it up. It's a weapon. And people used that back in the day, no joke, to wake people up during the service. So I think we should bring that back. Just for fun, you know. Just to poke the people who are awake, you know. Just a little. I did it to you, Dolores, but I love you. That didn't mean anything. Okay. We're studying Matthew, you already know the whole spiel, right? Okay. We're getting there. 23, a few more to go. So last week, Was I here last week? I wasn't here last week. Last time we were together, I called this whole chapter 23 the most ignored chapter in the Gospel of Matthew. All right? Why? Because it talks about the stuff that is still in religious culture, hypocrisy, wearing masks, hierarchies, all that stuff. So people normally, when we do church and religion stuff, it's basically just rip that chapter out of the Bible because it's not helping, Greg. Doesn't help the cause. You know what I mean? So, strong words from Jesus. I think I should just read it from the beginning so that you guys can catch up to verse 8 so you sort of get the feeling, Connor. Pam, Jill, and Connor, good to see you guys here too. Connor, so you can get the feeling of why this chapter is one of the most ignored chapters, or, in the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew 23, verse 1. For those who are picking up the Bible from underneath our seats, it's on page 777. If you don't want to read it, I'll read it to you. This is how it goes. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat," which was a place in the synagogues where the person would read Torah and say what the will of the gods were. "So do and observe whatever they tell you. The word is good, but don't practice. Don't do the works that they do, because they preach but do not practice." They don't live what they preach. So now you're starting to understand why people don't like this? This is not good. "They tie up heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on people's shoulders." Long lists of what you can do in church or what you can do in life and what you cannot do in church and in life. Long lists. I've seen several of them. Very heavy. "But they themselves are not willing to move anything with their own finger. They do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their phylacteries broad and their fringes long," which just means that their religious practices are always there. They dress in a particular way so that they can be perceived, seen for their faithfulness. "And they love the places of honor at feasts and the best seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the marketplaces, and being called rabbis, masters, teachers." So and that's where we stopped. We stopped on verse 8. So can you get the feeling already of where we are? How problematic this is? So last time we were together, we talked about hypocrisy and how damaging that can be to the community of faith. Community of Jesus has no room for hypocrisy. And the great irony in history is that hypocrisy has been historically attached to religion, to church. They go there my non-Christian religious friends, that's the feeling. You go there to give your money to people who are going to steal from you. That's even in America, huge religious culture of that feeling that you're just being tricked by some preacher up front to get the money so that he can buy a yacht, right? Or a jet, something like that. So if you ever see me sort of getting cash from the bucket there and placing on my pocket, you feel free to punch me in the face, Terry, okay? Not a good deal. So it's hard. Talked about hypocrisy and how damaging that can be. So the question we raised last time was, how can we avoid? How can we police our heart? How can we police our community? How can we establish some parameters so that hypocrisy is not part of what we do? So that when we talk to people, we actually feel like we're talking to a human being and not somebody who's going to cheat us next weekend or try to take advantage of us in one way or another. And how much abuse and cheating has been aligned with, again, religion and Christianity along history. It's like part of the story. So again, this is not only the most ignored, but the most disobeyed chapter that we find in the Gospel of Matthew. It's truly drastic. It's sad. To the point that even when people ask me in town what I do, I have to think for 5 seconds, should I tell them I'm a pastor? Because right there, you can already say, there's that. You feel like you're going to be measured and judged. I try to talk about it in the newsletter this week about our identities and who we are. For those who are not receiving the newsletters that I write weekly and you want to receive them, just write, Wendy, wave your arm there. Give your email to Wendy. We can send it to you. We're not going to bombard you with emails. It's just one newsletter I write every week, basically, to share my feelings with you. And this week, we talked about, identity and who we are. Forgot to write something on the board here. Because I remember the newsletter. Every Thursday morning we're having Mackenzie breakfast. Remember when I lost a pastor friend the other day? Mackenzie. Thomas Mackenzie died in a car crash in Nashville. This was a hard month, man. Thomas had a weekly breakfast with the men of his church every week, whoever wanted to come. So we started doing that now. I've done it for 2 weeks, but I didn't tell anybody. So just a few people came that I invited to come. But I'm going to have breakfast with the men, because the men we don't have anything going for men's ministries here, so I just felt like we should just have coffee, breakfast, and just talk about life and just laugh and exchange stories. So this happens every Thursday morning at around 8:15 here at the Pantry Dos on Richards, right? So you know the Pantry on Cereals? They did a new one right here close to our church. So every Thursday morning I'll be there with whoever wants to meet me, and if nobody shows up, I'll just read a book like normally I do. So just if you want to come, if you're a guy and you're free Thursday mornings at 8:15, that's what we do. We're going to have breakfast and just share life together, because I talked about spaces and wanting to be with you more. So that's what it is. Okay? Ladies, I talked to Dolores about it. If anybody wants to do a women's breakfast, tell me where it is, because I will crash that breakfast as well. But if anybody would like to volunteer to do something like that, friends, I hope you're already understanding what this whole church thing is all about. It's about sharing life together. So if you want to have one for the ladies and not tell me, that's okay too. But just create spaces where you can be with one another. I don't have to be there, but just be involved in one another's stories and lives. That's what the point is all about. So during the breakfast, I discussed it with Robert, who was with me, and I wrote it in the newsletter about identity, about who we are, and about how if I asked you, who are you, right? It's hard to come up with one thing. You know, I'm a dad, I'm a son, I'm a grandson, I'm a pastor, I'm a husband, I'm broken, I'm sad, I'm a friend, I'm confused. You know, I'm a musician, but I don't tell that to a lot of people. So don't. My secrets are still hidden. I'm a musician. I'm all these. So how can you boil it down to, and how okay it is to not boil it down to one and just embrace the complexity of all things. So anyway, Mackenzie breakfast, we talk about that, and how could hypocrisy be part of the Christian identity? That's how. So how do we avoid that? That's the big question. How do we not allow our witness, our life as followers of Jesus to be marred by hypocrisy, right? That's the big question that I wanted to ask you. How is the community of Jesus to behave so that these vices do not occur? Jesus will touch upon one of those elements or two that confused and consumed the imagination of the people at the time, and it confuses us today as well, and it's the question of authority. One of the reasons why we get into hypocrisy within the community is because we have a unhealthy understanding of what authority is and how that shapes our understanding of hierarchies in the church. I remember when I first got here, back in one of those first board meetings, I asked the board of the church, who has authority here? It's always nice coming in and ask those questions, right? Because everybody knows. I love those uncomfortable moments. I thrive in them. Who has authority? Do you guys remember that? Angela and sis? I pointed to one person. I said, do you think that person there has authority? Couldn't drop a pin there. It's very silent, Wendy. I said, do you think that other person there has authority? Silence again. I asked, do you think I as the pastor have authority? And then everybody sort of, adjusted their seat and said, yeah, sure, you're the pastor, you have authority. I said, let me tell you what I think. I don't think that person has authority. I don't think that other person has authority. And let me get something very clear right now. I have absolutely no authority over you unless that person and myself live in unity with Jesus. Then that changes, because then we carry a weight of experience. A weight that will never lead you to lord over other people, control other people, manipulate other people, but an authority that will lead you to serve other people. Because Jesus came not to be served, but to serve, and that's what authority in the Bible looks like. That was a weird conversation back in the day. So where does the hypocrisy, the wanting to be seen, the visibility, where does that come from? From a diseased sense of authority and hierarchy of who is important and who is not. How have we come to the point where in our Christian religion, authority is confirmed and affirmed to the hypocrites? To those who externally, it's okay, let them talk. It's okay. They're all concerned with the kids talking. The church rule here is let the kids make noise because that reminds us that we're not dead just yet. They're alive and we have a future, so it's going to be all right. So are you guys with me? Where does this desire to be visible? Why do we value those things? The people, why do we? Because we have a diseased sense of what authority is, of what a person who is truly valued by God, a Christian subject, a person. What does a Christian look like? Right? No, that we start imagining like a dress code or a way to speak and everything else. When we just talked about minutes ago in our Bible study, how the one thing that defines a follower of Christ is not how he dresses or whatever. It's how well he experiences and shares the mercy that he receives from God. That is way beyond all of these external things that we value as authoritative. Service, sacrifice, love. Those are the symptoms of true authority. So how do we help? How do we avoid? How do we move away from that sense, Terry, of a fake authority, of a fake hierarchy, by considering again what authority and hierarchies should function, how they should function in the Christian community. So are you ready to keep reading? Now we're going to read verse 8 to 12, and it's going to be very short. I don't want to keep you here too long. Verse 8. So although the Pharisees and the scribes loved to be called rabbi by others, verse 8, but you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. One teacher. Who is the teacher? Christ. Christ is our teacher. Why am I teaching from up here? Because as your brother, I am sharing with you my experience in the words of our teacher, Jesus. The moment I stop doing that and start pointing the finger and telling you what to do and lording over you and manipulating your life and abusing you, that is the moment I have stepped away from that vocation of being a servant, an authority, a servant of Jesus for this community. You are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher and you are all brothers. And call no man your father on earth, for you have one Father who is in heaven. Neither be called instructors, for you have one instructor, the Christ. The greatest among you shall be your servant. There you go. You want to know what authority is? The greatest, the one you recognize, will probably be the one you'll never see. The greatest is the one who serves. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exhausted. I gave an interview a while back about our community. People wanted to know what was happening here in Santa Fe. I gave them an interview. They said, Tiago, how do you know that the church is growing? You know, that whole church growth thing, right? That's the sign that things are all good. I said, I don't care for it. I said, what do you mean you don't care for it? I said, I don't. If people come in and out, if 20 people show up here and 100 the next day, that tells me nothing. And then the interviewer got very confused. And then I said, well, so what's the deal? How do you know that the community is healthy, that the church is healthy? I said, I know whenever we had, that's back in the day when we had fellowship meals here together, we had food every Sabbath after church. I said, I know the community is healthy the day when I go into the locker over there to grab a broom to clean up, and there are no more brooms left. That's the sign that we're in the right path. Choosing the least. The invisible services, choosing to do that which nobody likes to do, but because you see others, you love others, and you say, you know what, let me do that. Get some rest. That's the sign for me of a healthy community. Where did we get that from? from Jesus saying that the greatest is the least. The one who is the authority is the one who serves. So yeah, how do we avoid these two things? By revisiting our ideas of authority and hierarchy. And what does Jesus say? That the greatest, the authority is the one who does what? Service. We must allow our imaginations as a community of faith to be expanded, to understand that when we hear the word authority, we're not thinking about a person who has influence or speaks well or all these other things. We think about who is the person who serves more. And I already gave you partially the answer. It's normally the person who you don't even know is doing stuff, because they don't care to be seen or not. That's the beauty of it. Why do we create the subversion of trying to be seen and starting to do the things that nobody sees us do? Because we go by one confidence, one assurance that God sees us, and that's all that we need. I don't need to be validated by everybody else. We just do stuff. Why? Because we are loved by God and we love everybody else. He sees us. In the hierarchy, you are to have no master, no teacher, no rabbi, no father. You are all to be what? Jesus says. Brothers and sisters. Yeah? Pretty clear, isn't it, the gospel? Isn't it amazing?
Whether they like us or not.
Yeah. The Bible tells us to love people. It doesn't tell us to like everybody, Dolores. There's a big difference there. No master. In the community of Jesus, nobody is the owner of doctrine. Nobody forces knowledge upon others. We are all brothers that help one another with the gifts we have to experience life through the way of Jesus, who loves to reveal himself to the little ones. We are to have no father. In the community of Jesus, there are no fathers. People who function as superiors, imposing their will upon others, are not in line with the vision of Jesus. Anything that might place one above other, infringes upon the reality of brotherhood. Are you guys with me? Yes or no? Yes or no? Nobody above. Everybody in the same level. Learning happens in community, listening to one another, and not as an indoctrination by Pastor Tiago upon everybody else where it has to be his way or no other way. No, you're free to have a voice, to voice your feelings, your thoughts, your theologies. Because guess what? We can all learn from them. Why can we learn from them? Because we don't have one rabbi, one master, one father. We are all brothers and sisters trying to discern the movement of the Spirit in front of the Word of God in a broken world. The idea of brotherhood here is important because it places us again alongside one another. Jesus did not imagine his community to be one of upper and lower classes, but one of brothers and sisters serving one another. Are we together? Yes or no? You're very silent right now. Amen. Yes or no? Amen. Yes. No hierarchy. So yeah, we are all taught, not by the one who sits on the seat of Moses, but they are all taught. We are all taught by the one sent from God. The one Moses spoke of. When he comes, listen to him. So yeah, and before him, we are all students, brothers and sisters. After all this, there are no titles, hierarchies, structures that facilitate or validate the practices of an outward religious flair that we love so much. The religion of Jesus is a religion of the heart, of love, materialized by fruit to be shared with others. It is a religion where Jesus has the first and the last word. Amen, friends? That's it. I think I'm good. How do we avoid the hypocrisy, the visibility, the giving authority to wolves who abuse you? How do we do that? We have to redefine authority and hierarchy. Authority is now recognized by service and not by anything else, and hierarchy does not exist because we are all brothers and sisters and we have only one master, one rabbi, one teacher, and one father, the Christ. That is how we will do things, not because Pastor Tiago has ordered it, because Jesus has told us to. And so we follow. We must grow into that vision, allow our imagination to be consumed by these words, so that when we open the closet after lunch, when we have people struggling, families that are feeling alone, unvisited, sick, that we can be there in their life. You're welcome, Mary. It's good to see you up and running. Are you kicking again already? Good. Mary was sick the other day. Good. So good luck, kids. Mary is kicking again. It's good. I know. Thank you, everybody, sis and people who made food, organizing the feeding. Mary was sick, and I'm glad you felt. Did you feel the love, Mary? Then there you go. And next time I get an interview, how do you know that the community is healthy if it's not about church growth? Well, no, Mary is fed. That's how I know our community is doing well. Is that clear enough, friends? Yes or no? Amen. Do we have hierarchies here? Yes or no? Nope. Why? Because we are brothers and sisters. And how do we recognize authority here? As we experience the good gifts that are shared by one another, to one another. So friends, my hope is that we can grow into that, and that we can create more spaces to experience that together. Every Sabbath we have Bible study with food over here and this. Saturday night and Friday nights we go serve at Pete's place. Tuesday we have Bible study on Zoom. We're studying Romans, and if you want to feel comfortable, do not come to the studies on Romans. Thursday we have McKinsey breakfasts at 8:15. We have food drive. Frank is sick, so I'm going to need a volunteer to help me give food to people who don't make it to the shelter every Thursday morning. Thank you for those who are preparing food again every week. And we have prayer meeting Thursday nights as well, so that we can cry with one another. Why all of these things? So that we can understand that this is the vision of Jesus for a community that lives the kingdom of heaven now. As if we were there now, sharing life together, affections together, pain together, tears together.
And don't forget Sunday, the yard sale. And there'll be breakfast.
Yard sale, the flyers are up. Dolores, you're going to be outside giving more flyers to people who didn't get one, yeah?
Oh, there's some on the table. Take as
No, you're responsible. No, you got to go over there now and do it. You can't just come over here and say the yard sale and then just go home. No, you go over there now and you do the thing. Okay, good. All right, let's pray together. Are you ready to pray? All right, touch the person next to you. Okay? If this is a community of affections, come over here, Dolores. You pray with me. We need to learn how to embrace one another, feel our bodies, feel our emotions, feel our pain, our joys. This is what it means, right? This is not a religion of the head, of the skies. It's a religion of bodies, of places, of feelings. So let's pray together. Dear God, thank you for giving us Jesus, because without him we would be completely lost. So thank you for today, for reframing our imagination around your words, so that we might serve one another, love one another, and live like brothers and sisters, having in you our only Father. Lead us onward through the good days and the bad days, in the tears and in the joys and the visions and the dreams. In our frustrations, walk with us, we pray. Be with the family of Mary. Be with Frank and all the people who are struggling today as well, we pray. In the name of Jesus, amen. Be well. I love you too. Be well, be kind, okay? And I'll see you next week.
Hey, Cupcake.